You're very welcome back, Nigeria. You're still watching the TVC Breakfast Show. And before we went on the break, we were discussing security matters arising. As Nigeria continues to grapple with security challenges, President Bola Tinubu has taken bold and swift steps to address the rising threats. One such move is the recent nomination of General Christopher Musa as the new Minister of Defense. Now, the Senate is expected to screen the former Chief of Defense Staff, General Musa, as Nigeria's next Minister of Defense today. General Musa's nomination follows the resignation of former Defense Minister Mohammed Badaru, who stepped down recently citing health reasons. Meanwhile, the governors of the northern states have pledged 19 billion naira monthly to a regional security trust in order to bolster security efforts. Joining us for this very important conversation is security expert Dickson Osajie. Good morning, Mr. Osajie. Thank you so much for choosing to join us this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me this morning.
Thank you very much. Now, effectively, Nigeria's watched yesterday as Mohammed Badaru stepped down as the Minister of State for Defense. And now we are now seeing that the president has appointed General Christopher Musa, and that the northern leaders have pledged 19 billion naira monthly towards security in the north. Unfortunately, there's been fragmentation in the north as terrorist groups continue to metamorph and take over. How can we ensure that this is not just a temporary financial cushion, but that this money is deployed to intelligence and to vanquishing these terrorists once and for all?
Well, fantastic question. I tell you that over time and over the years, we've seen funds, disappearing and no effective accountability. And the amount of billions and trillions of naira the Nigerian government alone have spent for insecurity is disturbing, and we sometimes wonder where is the money? What do they do with it? And how are we still experiencing a high speed of insecurity when trillions and billions of naira have been, apportioned for, the speed of insecurity, for equipment, for personnel, and also for technologies. But I've seen the northern governors, they are waking up, because one thing we have is that we are always centralizing our problem. Anything that happens in any given state, everybody runs to Abuja, everybody points hands to the president. The president promises, they have some promises to govern the Nigerian state, and also every governor of the 36 states also, use insecurity to, campaign. And when they got into office, it begins to look as if they are pushing the blame to Abuja. And I tell you, every state governors must be held accountable for the spread of insecurity in their own state. What are the measures put in place? What are the technological measures put in place? What are the, preventive measures put in place? Because as a governor and the chief security officer of your state, you must take responsibility for any given security situation, so that to ease the problem of Abuja, that's there from the presidential perspective, because here we centralize our problem. So as it is now, we must decentralize our problem, and every governor, like what the Northern's governor are doing right now, I think it's a welcome development. Every month they've pledged 19 billion naira. That money must be well utilized in the area of personnel, in the area of technology, and in the area of processes, because security measures has three processes, has three measures: the personnel and the technology and processes. So that money must be well utilized, so that we'll be able to go before the laws, they'll be able to, attack these criminals with speed and momentum, and ensure that there is the pressure that's been mounted to Abuja or to the presidency. So every state governors must be accountable by their people.
Right. So, looking at the nomination of General Christopher Musa, as the Minister of Defense Staff by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who served as Christopher Musa, who served as Chief of Defense Staff, and has decades of military experience. People are saying that it is not time that the federal government is showing that we want to restore peace back to our country. We want to ensure that it is someone who has experience that is going to run the affairs, and then who also provide institutional memory and stability, professional military mindset at the end. What has been your expectation so far? What do you expect from General Christopher Musa based on his antecedents?
Fantastic question. One major problem we have in our country is misplaced priority. We don't even go into meritocracy, pragmatism, and also ensure that we appoint people on call specific areas. It's only in my country, Nigeria, you see an engineer being a minister of health. You see a doctor being a minister of education, and that's misplaced priority. For me, the Nigerian Defense, Ministry of Defense, is one of the most sensitive ministry in Nigeria, and anyone that must occupy that office must have a trace of experience, career-wise and also educational-wise and professional-wise. You don't just bring people to the ministry politically just to, ensure they are being appointed. No, that is a wrong motive. That's a wrong notion, because these are people that takes charge of the nation's security. What can you give out? Because the truth is that you cannot give what you don't have. And if you cannot give what you don't have, the seat you're occupying is a threat to yourself and also a threat to the country. So for me, General Christopher Musa has a seasoned career, 39 years of experience, with boots on the ground, has been to most of...
Hello, Mr. Osajie, are you still with us? Mr. Osajie, are you still with us? Very, very interesting conversation right there. Mr. Osajie has mentioned that, exactly what we said earlier on, that what he needs is political backing. He needs support. His experience and his expertise is commendable. But right now, what he needs more than ever is for political leaders to rally behind him and throw their weight behind him for him to really deliver.
Yeah, we understand that Mr. Osajie is back. Mr. Osajie, could you carry on from where you left off? We lost you momentarily.
So let's be true to ourselves. General Christopher Musa, and maybe all the best generals in this country, I don't think they will resolve the state of insecurity, even though they might mitigate it. I tell you, the problem is beyond a person. This has to deal with government taking the bull by the horn. There are a lot of issues going on in this country that we need to handle effectively. First of all, we need to start looking at the political will. We need to also start looking at the terrorism financiers. We need to also start looking at the terrorism, sponsors, so that we'll be able to support General Christopher Musa and also the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't go after these guys, what you are doing is that you're just carrying out a surface cleansing or a surface application. Because if you look at the organogram of terrorism, they are well organized. In fact, one of the best organized criminal institutions on earth. Because when you look at what the organogram is, the fighters are even the last men on the organogram. That's the reason why we need to start going to their center of gravity. Absolutely. To pull them down from the center of gravity down to their fighters. Because if we keep on killing their fighters or eliminating their fighters from the east, west, south, and north, what we are doing is that we are just, carrying out, we're just wasting our aviation diesel if the Air Force are supposed to be bombarded there from the air. So let's tackle these guys from their center of gravity and ensure that we start, getting their sponsors, because when it comes to counter-insurgency, it has to deal with military-centric and population-centric. Then the three measures that is very effective in counter-insurgency is that we need to start looking at how we de-resource these guys. If you don't de-resource these guys and ensure that they don't have resources to engage our military, engage our people, we'll just be fighting them for nothing. So let's look at the resourcing them, leaking them, and also demoralizing them, and also try and ensure that we, cut off their employment methodology so that they won't be able to get their fighters. Where are they getting their fighters from? They are capitalizing on the vulnerable state of this country and employing those Nigerians that are jobless and bringing them to the terrorism industry to engage the Nigerian people.
Thank you.
So we have
so
a lot
much.
to do in countering this insurgency.
Thank you so much, Mr. Osajie. I really do like that analogy, bringing them down at the center of gravity. But I want to really focus right now on the Northern Leaders Forum, this important issue of state policing. Northern leaders have come out to say that the centralized policing system is no longer working for them, and they are pushing, or rather proposing, for state policing. Now, we do know that there are many pros and cons of individual state policing. You could have faster community-based response. You could have localized intelligence. On the other hand, security analysts are warning that there could be fragmentation with the state policing. And not only that, but that a lot of politicians could use state police as their own personal political tools. How can we ensure that if state policing is put into place, they complement instead of clash with federal agencies?
Fantastic question. I tell you, fantastic question. Well, the truth is that we cannot run away from troubles or problems if we want to get things right. The truth is that the time for state policing is now, and it's been long that we've been practicing a centralized policing system. And I've seen some governors come on air and cry out that the soldiers or the police did not respond on time simply because they are waiting they are waiting for orders from Abuja, and that centralized policing system is affecting our response measures. But because when you look at the response mechanism of every security situation, the first level of response mechanism is preventive measures, then proactive measures, then reactive measures. These measures are put in place so that we'll be able to manage the state of insecurity or the security issues in our given country. But the issue here is that we are only being responsive after the commission of crime. We are being responsive after the criminals have succeeded in their criminal activities. We are being reactive, because our proactive measures and preventive measures is collapsed. So now the state policing system has its advantages and disadvantages. One of the advantages of state policing is quick response. Are you with me? Swift response if there's a crime in progress. Swift response after the commission of crimes, because you don't have to wait for Abuja or the presidency to approve the policing guys to chase these guys to render those environment or their state heaven and bring them to book. So the advantage is response measures and also localized knowledge, because when you go into state policing, you are going to have people within the state who has knowledge about their territories, who have knowledge about their creeks and knowledge about their state geographical design. That is the advantages, quick response. But the disadvantage is the risk of political abuse. Maybe the politicians might want to use them during election, because even as it is now, as of now we're practicing centralizing policing system, we still see politicians abusing our security agents, using them during election. So the disadvantage for state policing is that they are going to abuse it, the risk of abuse during election, suppression of their opponent. But for us to get it right, we need to ensure that state policing system is designed in a way whereby we will have orders flowing. They have to be, independent on their own, even though they are going to take orders from the governors. But there should be a design in which the governors cannot mismanage them and ensure that the police leaders in their given states are effective and take orders from their command structure, not directly from the commander.
More recently, we're seeing governors who are coming together. We've seen the southern governors who had, convened, somewhere in Ogun State, and then we've also had the northern governors, 19 of them, who had also convened, and then pledging 19 billion naira security fund, towards the cause of prosecuting insecurity. Fight against insecurity in the country. We also getting to see that there is this police forces, fresh troops to be deploying of forest guards, which is sounding quite promising. But given Nigeria's history of budget constraints, corruption, inconsistent funding, and bureaucratic bottlenecks, and all of the things that have happened, looking at that history, how do you think, even plus the inconsistent funding, are you quite optimistic about these pledges being made by the governors of the South and indeed of the North?
Well, I believe the pledges will stand, but the management of the fund is the major problem. And it's so sad that our country, or my country, Nigeria, did not believe in the people. They don't take security as their topmost priority. They don't believe in the survival of Nigeria. Everything happening in this country is me, myself, and my family.
That statement might be flawed, because we do not know the heart of every politician. Some politicians are indeed, genuinely, willing for the betterment of this country. But we know that even some followers are really not doing. They are anti-Nigeria itself. So we can't blame the entire politicians. Heap the blame on all of the blames on the politicians.
That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, the truth is that if you want to carry out an effective audit, none of the politicians you find innocent. If you want to carry out an effective audit, I'm not here to lay blames. What I'm trying to say is that we need to start looking at accountability. If you visit the EFCC today and tell them to give you the list of people that have been prosecuted or those that have been reported from 1999 to date, you'll be surprised to see some names there, even some that have not been even prosecuted. But that's not what I'm here to discuss. What I'm here to talk about is that we need to start looking at accountability. If we don't hold people responsible and punish those who abuse funds that are meant for national security, sentence them to life imprisonment, or let them pay the supreme price for putting Nigeria in a state of unrest, we will keep on having the flaws in management of our funds, because when you release these funds, at the end of the day, there's no accountability. So we need to start having accountability from the horizontal plane and vertical plane. We need to start having accountability from up to down, down to up, or horizontally, so that any persons or people or group of people who think that any funds that is meant for security in the protection of lives and property can be diverted I'm not here to come and say everybody is a thief or everyone is a criminal. But I'm saying that we should start looking at accountability. If we don't look at accountability so that we'll be able to mitigate the spread of insecurity, we'll keep on having issues. Because I've seen a lot of times, do you know how the trillions of naira the federal government has been apportioning for the state of insecurity? How do we account for those funds? So accountability is my major purpose this morning.
Absolutely.
Let's start looking at accountability so that we'll hold people accountable very seriously. And that is why I always say that crime and punishment comes hand in hand. If you punish people effectively who commit crime or who steals the money of the state or state's money, I tell you, my brother, we'll keep on having these issues. So we need to start looking at punishment measures. Punish people who commit crime against the state. Then we'll be able to mitigate. If we don't do that, I tell you, this 19 billion naira, at the end of the day, you discover that only 500 million naira has been spent, 18.5 billion naira missing. So accountability.
Very well said, Mr. Osajie. I completely agree with you on that, in the sense that oftentimes we focus on the big amounts of security funding as opposed to the documentation and the accountability and following the paper trail of where these funds go. Now, 19 billion naira monthly, that is a very hefty budget, but we have to say that Nigeria's security landscape currently is in dire need of financial support. But while the state has a budget for insecurity, we must remember that terrorists also have a budget. How far can 19 billion naira go when terrorists are being funded by very powerful and very wealthy people? We've heard many times that terrorists now have sophisticated weaponry, drones, artificial intelligence. How far can 19 billion naira really go, in really deploying the type of technological tools that we need to secure our safety?
Well, 19 billion is going to go a long way if we don't have some bad guys on board that will divert the funds. Because basically, I tell you that when it comes to security management, we have technology, one of the second components, which is really going to assist this spread of insecurity. So what they should be looking at is to apportion, maybe 30% of that funds in acquiring ISR drones, that is intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance drones that can be used to hover around the enemy's territory, hover around the governable space to go and fetch intelligence and ascertain.
Mr. Osajie, are you still with us? Very interesting, Ibrahim. Honestly, when we talk about the issue of insecurity, it's so interesting to see the fact that these bandits or these terrorists are constantly metamorphing and they're keeping up with the times. When we talk about 90 billion, it sounds huge, but when you think about it, the cost of technological tools to really vanquish these terrorists. Mr. Osajie, are you back with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
I was about to give my own expertise. I'm not the security expert here. Please continue with what you were saying.
So, like what I'm saying is that I say if we can apportion 30% of that 19 billion monthly to purchase some technological equipment, it will be very helpful. Because what this technological equipment will do, like for example, one of the major technological equipment, the ISR equipment, that's ISR drone, which stands for Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Drone. Its duty is to go to the enemy's den, hover around within their governable space, fetch intelligence, and return it back to the command control center to ascertain the number of terrorists within that given environment, ascertain their weaponry, ascertain their equipment, and also their strength and capability. Then from there, the intelligence will be analyzed from the drones and also give the Nigerian military or Nigerian police the idea of what is expected of them to do to go to the enemies den and wipe them out. That is the effective area of intelligence. So we need to apportion 30% of that funds to purchase drones monthly. Then we also have the attack drones. You don't need to start sending our soldiers and officers to this territory for them to be killed like chickens. I tell you, the whole reason why technology was, introduced into the battlefield is to reduce the loss of lives of the officers and men in the battlefield so that they don't come under attack, ambush, or, being killed like animals. So technology is going to save the life of these guys. That's why I'm pushing. Now, 30% of that money should be used to purchase technology every month, and this technology should be well managed. Then I also advise that the Nigerian Army should establish drone battalions. As it is now, the battle is really getting fierce. We shouldn't, just relax and say, okay, the 19 billion has been released. No, we need to start looking at establishing some battalions of the Nigerian Army. Maybe some other state that doesn't have enough soldiers. Let's create drone battalions.
That's right.
So these drone battalions will be solely responsible for drone attack, drone surveillance gathering, and ensure that the foot soldiers and the Nigerian Air Force will be able to go and carry out an effective bombardment within that given area.
Absolutely.
So that these guys will not sleep by day, they will not be able to sleep by night as well.
Now, looking at Nigeria, it's quite a diverse nation, with ethnic, religious, and national or regional complexities, beyond the oversimplification of the United States of America, categorizing it as a Christian genocide, whereas so many people are being killed regardless of whatever it is that they profess. How do you think we can also help our military, our soldiers, the boots on the ground, who are prosecuting this war directly, against the terrorists, against the enemies of Nigeria? Do you think we need the help, even though the president said we need 50,000 more police to be employed into the police force? We also need more Nigerian army, more members, more soldiers to also be recruited in the Nigerian army, etc. And then we also need the deployment of the forest guards. Do you also feel that we possibly need, beyond intelligence sharing with the international community, do we also need mercenaries in our Nigerian forest to help us fight side by side the Nigerian soldiers against these terrorists?
Fantastic question. You see, let me tell you the truth. As a former soldier, the Nigerian military, the Nigerian army alone, are very, very capable to eliminate these guys. If you give them the right tools, the right motivations, and also the right equipment, and give them an effective force protection, I tell you, within 6 months, the Nigerian army can wipe out these guys from our territorial space. The major challenges we've been having is that it seems that the Nigerian military has been politicized, or they are gambling into politics a lot. I see no reason why we have brave officers and men, multiple generals, hundreds of generals in our territorial space in Nigeria, and yet we have some group of criminal elements beheading our generals, killing our officers, killing our soldiers. That's unacceptable. And that is why you see some, international engagement, like the tweet of Donald Trump, because we have so much play with the state of insecurity. I've been on TVC over 120 times in the past 7 years discussing about the state of insecurity, providing solutions. It seems as if most of our leaders don't tune in on don't put on their TV to take on knowledge from most security analysts and political analysts. So for me, it's not all about international assistance. If we have the right tools, we have the right technology, and we have an effective motivation of our officers and men, we will be able to eliminate these guys. But one major problem I have identified over the years within the Nigerian Army operation is operational error and tactical error. It's so sad to note that most times the Nigerian Army will leave their officers and men in the battlefield for 4 good years. Someone who gained admission at the University of Lagos will be a graduate, a soldier is still in the bush, chasing an enemy he never created or he never formed. So we should start looking at the operational errors, deployment errors, ensure that any soldiers that go to the battlefield knows when he or she is coming back home. Maximum 9 months, 10 months, 11 months, 1 year maximum. When you leave a soldier in the battlefield for 4 good years, his mental state begins to depreciate, his fighting capability begins to depreciate, because every battle begins from the mind. So this is one of the major issues, because if we don't address this issue, these deployment issues by the Nigerian Army, every billions, 19 billions, 100 billion will be a waste, because these soldiers, they will not have the mentality to withstand these terrorists. In the 90s, when I was in the Bakassi Peninsula, the maximum number of months we stay in Bakassi Peninsula was 6 months. After 6 months, we come back home and reunite with our family. But here you see soldiers spending 4 years. The presidency must give them a marching order to stop this deployment error and this tactical error, so that our soldiers don't get killed in the battlefield. This is one of the major challenges we're having. Or else, the Nigerian Army has the capability, they have the capacity to eliminate these terrorists within 6 months. 1 battalion in the Nigerian Army with effective drone, with no state by state, and wipe out this enemy without political interference. But I have seen for so far that there are 1 or 2 political interference within this operation. The Nigerian Army.
Mr. Osajie, that's all we have time for right now. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. But I want to thank you for your, relentless service, like you said, over the past decade to conversations like this. Thank you so much for joining us. The work that you do is extremely important, as I'm sure you know. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Well, in other parts of the country, the grass is greener as Nigerians can now heave a sigh of relief as President